Good afternoon and welcome to Four Wheels in a Seat. My name is Alex Dalrymple and this is my channel where I review new cars every week. And if you hit subscribe, you'll be guaranteed to be notified whenever a new one appears online. So can you do that for me, please? And if you enjoy the video, give me a like as well. That would be awesome. So this is the Citroen C5X, not to be confused with the similarly named CX-5 from Mazda. Very different cars, although they do actually weirdly fulfill the same brief. They can move 5 people about in comfort and carry a decent amount of gear, and they both look good. Plus they are also both very fuel efficient, but the Citroen being a French car, well, it's just a little bit quirky. So is it a wagon? Is it a sedan? Is it an SUV? Citroen says that it's all three. So I guess technically that makes it a crossover. I don't really see too much of a sedan in this car. To me, it looks more like a wagon. And the fact that it rides up a little bit high and has some grey cladding around the wheel arches, that kind of gives away its SUV aspirations. But I reckon wagon is probably the best description for this car. And a fine looking wagon it is at that. I really like the design. Up front we have some very cool looking angular driving lights that turn on automatically as you approach the car, which is a very nice touch. Step even closer and the doors automatically unlock. And of course the signature Citroen badge at the front looks really good as well. From the side you can see how it rides up a little bit higher than a regular wagon, plus we have that grey cladding around the wheel arches, which look, I'm not normally a big fan of, but with this colour combination that they've got going on this particular car, I think it actually looks pretty good. And you might also notice that we actually have not one, but 2 spoilers on the back of this car. As you can see, the tailgate angles down at a rather severe angle and opens up fully automatically to a pretty decently sized 545 litre boot. If you knock down the rear seats, you can pretty much triple that space. It's very usable. Up the front and under the bonnet, I am just a little bit disappointed. Here we have a 1.6 litre 4-cylinder turbo engine that outputs just 113 kilowatts of power and 250 newton meters of torque. That's really nothing to write home about. It is fuel efficient though, coming in at an average of 6 litres per 100 kilometers on a combined cycle. In Europe, they offer an even smaller version of this engine, just a 1.2 litre with something like 93 kilowatts. I think you would probably need to get out and push this car up some of the hills around here. I'm currently driving in the Southern Highlands of New South Wales, which is probably one of the best places to road test a French car, because I think it's actually one of the closest places we have in Australia to what European roads are like. They're windy and they're relatively smooth, and the ones that aren't smooth, well, the Citroen just glides over anyway. The suspension is just brilliant. The inside looks good. It's got a bit of that quirky French design, but it does miss a little bit of that wow factor that you get from some of this car's Peugeot stablemates. At 12 inches, this car's center console screen looks really good. We've got nice sharp images. The software is fine, but it does work quite differently to just about any other car you're going to come across, and the native navigation from TomTom also looks really good as well. We have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, which is great. Phone connection is generally fine. It has been a little bit flaky on a couple of occasions, and Apple CarPlay has actually frozen and I've had to restart it, but it's not too bad. Just like Peugeot, we also get video tutorials in the system to show you how to use a lot of this car's functions. You can also pick what widgets you want to display on the screen. There's a few different presets to choose from, or you can make your own. Moving down the console, we've got a couple of shortcut buttons for the menus, air vents, climate controls, which work in a pretty straightforward manner, although I kept getting the rear demister and the front demister confused. A USB-A port, 12-volt outlet, a slidey cubby there hiding wireless phone charging with a bit of extra storage for another phone if you need to put it there. In place of a big gear stick, we've got this little rocker switch here for reverse, neutral and drive. The park is push button. Powered park brake, and a really deep center console bin with another USB-A port in it. Goes almost down to the floor of the car. Head-up display on the screen in front of me. Again, it's customizable, whatever you want to put on there. I like having maps personally. The digital instrument cluster, Again, that quirky French design, it's just a bit on the small side, and while you can change what is displayed on here, it's just, I don't know, I can't quite see enough. Everything's just a bit too small for me. The steering wheel is another cool piece of design with its flat top and flat bottom. In fact, its overall look harkens back to the Citroens of old. We've got paddle shifters on the back here if you want to change gears manually, and audio controls and cruise controls. The seats are very comfortable. They're leather and heated with electric adjustment for the driver and front passenger. Visibility in every direction is really good except through the rear vision mirror through the back window, because it is just so small. You're not really seeing very much out of there at all. You'll be relying on your reversing cameras, especially when you're parking. So the first thing I think of when I hear European wagon is Volkswagen Passat or an Audi A4. And this is a little bit different to both of those. It just doesn't quite have that same sporty level of performance. Being front-wheel drive only, there's no all-wheel drive option. It's just not quite on the same level, dynamically speaking. And then there's the engine. The 1.6-litre four-cylinder engine just feels like it's the very limit of its capability, especially on the freeway when you're trying to overtake. Driving along a dirt gravel road, the C5X handles it so well. It is just really smooth. I mean, look, it's not buttery smooth. Of course, you're not going to expect that, but this is really good. One other little annoyance I've had with this car is the engine stop-start, which is not a feature I like in any car, but with this one, you have to go into the center console screen, do a couple of button pushes to turn it off every single trip, which is quite annoying. It doesn't remember how you normally have it set up. Safety gear, well, it's all here. We've got lane keep assist, forward collision warning, blind spot monitors in the wing mirrors, and rear cross traffic alert. The seat warming is very good once it warms up, but it's quite slow to get going. And look, I know anyone in Europe is probably going to be saying, oh, you don't really need seat heaters, it's not that cold. Well, look, it's cold for Australia, all right? It was 8 degrees this morning. It's 12 right now. That is not warm. French build quality, well, you can't fault that. It is very, very good, although technically speaking, this car isn't French. It was actually built in China, but it is a very solid car. Australians, I think, can be just a little bit blind to French cars. We're kind of locked into this German, Korean, Japanese, Chinese kind of mindset. And we overlook French cars, where there are some extremely good cars from car makers like Citroen, Peugeot and Renault that are definitely worth considering. So if you're going out new car shopping, take one for a test drive. You might be surprised. They're a little bit quirky and a little bit different, but they're all really good. This is definitely where this car is its happiest, I think, just cruising along an open country road at 100 k's an hour. It's a really leisurely, relaxed car to drive. Another feature I've really appreciated on this trip was driving around last night, the auto high beams. Very handy on an open country road, meaning that whenever there's a car coming towards me in the opposite direction, the high beams automatically dip. I didn't even have to turn high beam on in the first place. They just came on by themselves. At $62,625 drive away, the Citroen C5X ticks pretty much every box for what a family could want out of a Euro cruiser. If you're going on road trips, it's got plenty of room, it's very comfortable and extremely smooth ride. It's kind of hard to make an argument against it, despite its slightly anemic engine. But if that doesn't bother you and you want something that's a little bit quirky and a little bit different, and believe me, has actually attracted a bit of attention. I've had people stop and talk to me about this car, then this one could be for you.